Sometimes the best stories in golf aren't found on tour. You'll find them at the back of the range. And here's your host, Ben Adelberg.
And welcome to the Back of the Range Golf Podcast. I'm your host, Ben Adelberg. This is episode 19. I hope that you enjoyed episode 18, which was the first part of my conversation with Greg O'Mahony. As you all know by now, Greg is a native Floridian who played professionally all over the world chasing his PGA Tour dreams. If you like the first half, you will definitely enjoy the second half. You want a reason? I'll give you two. Gary Busey. That's right. Nobody can refuse a good Gary Busey story, and I promise you that Greg has one for you in this half of the interview. Before we kick things off, remember, if you haven't listened to episode 18, do that first. Then listen to this one. That's why we have all these things numbered. Remember, we're on Instagram. Check us out, The Back of the Range Podcast. Our website, thebackoftherange.com. That's where you can find all the information on the episodes, where you can download it, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, you name it. And if you want to shoot me an email, the email address is ben@thebackoftherange.com. So, Greg, let's settle back in here at the back of the range. You've had the taste of the PGA Tour. You've gone back. You've Mondayed into web.com events. You've played on mini tours all over the country. You've played state opens. You've played every tournament. Name for me, if you can, every single mini tour you've ever played on.
Oh, God. Minor League Golf Tour, Florida Professional Golf Tour, West Florida Golf Tour, National Pro Golf Tour, Gateway Golf Tour.
Now, let me stop you with the National Pro Tour. You mentioned this something earlier before we started recording this episode, something funny that happened on the National Pro Tour. Tell me about San Diego.
Okay, so San Diego, I qualified for this tour. You had to go to their Q school where top 25% or something get cards, which was a big deal because a membership cost $9,000, covered all your entry for the whole year, something like 20 events, I want to say. And you didn't have to pay any more money. That was your entry fees.
Okay.
You know? So then you're playing for $175,000 purses every day. It's almost like what Canada or Latin is now. This is when I broke my wrist. I fly out to California. Hadn't practiced at all. Like for six or 7 weeks. Missed the cut in the first event because of weather. Had to have a 36-hole day, and my wrist couldn't hold up.
Sure.
Make the cut on the number of the second event. Make a little bit of money. Third event's in San Diego. No expectations, obviously. I'm kind of still rusty. It's 3 weeks in a row. I go out. I somehow end up like in 7th or 8th place going to the final round. Like playing sharp, crazy greens. The course reminded me a lot of my home golf course, Tequesta, believe it or not. And I was like, I think I can do well here. I ended up shooting like a crazy good 68 and a really high winds the last day to get into a 3-way playoff. Birdied the third playoff hole to win the golf tournament. And I get this awesome trophy. Like, I'm talking, this guy is the tallest, skinniest golfer you've ever seen.
Like me. Go ahead.
It kind of reminded me of you. He didn't have any hair.
Okay.
So I'm carrying this thing. And this was the last event of the road trip.
Okay.
We drive up to L.A. It's St. Patty's Day weekend. I go up, being an Irish guy. I meet my sister, and we go to an Irish pub for some beers to celebrate. I'm with two of my best friends in the world. Traveling. These are the guys I'm traveling with for the year. Just living life. We're having an off night after 3 weeks.
Sure.
I get to see my nephew. We crash. We all sleep on air mattresses in my sister's 1-bedroom apartment. One of those kind of things.
Sure. Perfect.
And I remember the next day I woke up with a headache the size of California from drinking way too many Guinnesses and some Irish whiskey.
Beauty.
And go to the airport, and I'm like, this flight's going to be awful. I'm carrying this trophy that's like 3 feet tall that doesn't need to be 3 feet tall because the guy, if it was an equivalent of a human, is like a 12-foot human being.
Okay.
You know, in relation to everything else. I'm literally walking through I just put my stuff through the x-ray machine. I'm walking through the machine. I go to grab my trophy, pick the trophy up, look to the left, and it disintegrates in my hands. I'm talking like clay, whatever the heck this thing is made of, is in 1,000 pieces on the floor. All over the place at LAX airport. I'm like, what am I going to do? At first, I'm like, nobody's going to believe I won this golf tournament. I don't have a big check to carry home. I want this trophy, damn it. You know, it's like going through my head.
Sure.
So I scoop up all the pieces I can, throw it in my backpack. Now it fits in my backpack because it's in a bunch of pieces.
Well, it's easier to carry that way.
I'm a little hungover, too, mind you. All right. So we go our flight's delayed 2 hours. All right. Typical airline, not a big deal. So me and my buddies go, you know what? We got a couple weeks off. Let's go have a few drinks at the bar. And I'm like, I'll go have a beer. Turns into they have a shot and a beer special. Who do I sit next to? Gary Busey. I'm talking, my day is so strange at this point. I'm like, that's Gary Busey.
Okay.
I mean, his teeth are bigger than you could think they are. Gary Busey. That's how I knew it was Gary Busey.
He's got a mouthful of 2x4s. I know.
And he is talking to the bartender in just the most rambling bullshit. I wish I could even tell you what he was saying. All of a sudden, they call a flight, last call to get on a plane to go somewhere.
Uh-huh.
I think it was New York City. And he gets up, throws money on the table, and just starts running.
Okay.
To catch his flight to, I believe it was New York City.
Well,
Didn't get a chance to pick his brain, but man, I wish I could have.
Well, we've arrived now because, you don't have a podcast until Gary Busey gets mentioned. I mean, really. So after the disintegrated trophy Gary Busey incident, now you played that tour out in Hawaii also, didn't you?
Yeah, so how that tour worked was halfway through the year, they had a mark where if you were top 30 on the money list, all you had to do was get there. It was an additional $150,000 purse that wasn't part of your original entry fees that they get, it was like if you show up, you're going to make $1,500. They want you to bring your wives, girlfriends, whatever you have at that moment, come out, stay at Turtle Bay Resort. We get out there. Remember, I'd booked a flight for me and my girlfriend at the time, now my wife, Megan, and we're just kind of chilling. I had been on a 6-week-in-a-row road trip. This was the week after I had played the web event when I met Lee Jansen. Then I just finished 3rd or 4th in their most recent event in Indiana. Hopped on a plane and flew straight to North Shore of Hawaii. And we're out there, and all of a sudden, the main owner of the tour isn't there. They said breakfast, lunch, and dinner was free every night for you and a guest. I go down to breakfast the first day with my girlfriend at the time, now wife. Breakfast was $55 at Turtle Bay Resort. I'm like, this was supposed to be free. All the players are like, what is going on right now? We can't afford to eat $55 breakfast. Sure enough, after the second round, we find out that the guy doesn't have any money left. I'm owed $25,000 at this point, roughly 24 and change. Buddy of mine had just finished 4th in an event and then won an event. Rian Gibson, who has been on the PGA Tour.
Yeah.
He's like, how am I going to pay my mortgage? Because we're all we depending on this money. Not to mention we just spent thousands of dollars to fly to Hawaii and bring a guest because you're looking to kind of break even and have a mid break essentially. You know what I mean? You don't think you're going to finish last. So you think you're going to at least break even or make some money going to Hawaii. We find out there's no money left in the tour. This was the last event of the tour.
So what do you do? Did you guys even play?
We played because we were there, kind of thing. Why wouldn't you play?
But they had no money to pay you even if you won. Yeah,
the main people weren't there. They had their scoring people there. And so we all fly home after we get done. I played awful.
There's no, yeah.
And I remember getting home going, well, now what am I going to do the rest of the year? I got 2 months to Q school. I need to play. I already had my schedule mapped out. I think I had 3 or 4 flights booked, because you're still booking them ahead of time trying to get the best rates.
Of course.
And I remember, so I played the minor league golf tour. Every event they had, I played the minor league golf tour. Don't think anything of it. Just figure I'm never going to get paid. I'm like, damn, this is when I had the support from my sponsor.
Sure.
He's like, you're not allowed to play another event on that tour. I don't care what you say. Until they pay you in full, you're not playing another event.
Yep.
I go, well, that's fair. Understood. Don't think anything of it. Sure enough, the week of second stage of Q school, I get through first stage. The week of second stage Q school, I get a call. Hey, I want to talk to you about giving you a partial payment for your mini tour earnings that you're owed. Some lawyer. I'm like, what do you mean a partial payment? I'm owed $24,000 and change. I'm like, I need that in case I don't get through Q school for next year. And he's like, well, we'll offer you $16,000 in free membership next year. I'm like, where did you come up with this number?
And why do you think I'm that stupid?
Well, no, he's like, well, so you can either take this $16,000 in free membership they had bought in the Gateway or something had bought in.
Right.
Looking back on it, I don't even remember what the legal was. All I heard was you can take the 16 now or you can get a lawyer and fight us for the rest of it. And I'm like, A, I can't afford a lawyer. B, I need the $16,000. It's more than what I paid to get that money. I'll take it.
Sure.
So I took the money, lost roughly $10,000 and moved on. Never played another event on that tour.
Of course.
Obviously. But that's not the only time I've ever been burned. But that's the stories and the horror stories of mini tour golf.
That's just the way it is.
Yeah, they're all LLCs. If they want to get up and run, they get up and run. It's sad, but it's the truth.
And you need, but the thing is, if you're fighting to make it, you need something to play in before Q school. You can't just like hit balls in the range and then go play Q school. So what other choice do you have?
I mean, don't get me wrong. I'd love to sit and play $5 Nassau's with you
right,
all day,
but
Ben, but that's not going to train me.
Yeah, because you're going to lose. You're going to lose your ass. So, but what I'm saying
I'm
is,
going to lose at least dinner to you once a month.
Oh God, well, suck it up. So you go to Q school. When did you start? And we can talk about your Q school ventures, but I want to ask you about when did you decide to try European Q school? Like, what made that decision? I know there's plenty of stuff we can talk about domestically, but in the interest of brevity, I really want to get into. Now you're traveling domestically, but now you're becoming an international player, traveling all over the place in Europe. How did that start? Tell me about that.
So growing up in South Florida, Brooks Koepka was an acquaintance, friend, sort of. We hung out a little bit when we'd play amateur events, and he's a little bit younger than me, but seeing what Brooks did was like, well, damn, that may be a good route. They had just switched PGA Tour Q School to only web.com Tour Q School the year prior. And I was like, the price is the same. This is insane. Like, I need to have better avenues. There's got to be more options for us as players. So when the schedules came out for Q School, I realized I could do both. It was the last year of my contract with my financial support. I had the money in the bank from playing decent to be able to afford to do both of them. I'm like, you know what? Let's go. All in. I want to do it. If I'm going to do it, let's do it. It was the craziest fall I've ever had between playing, staying sharp, jet lag, all that good stuff. I'm not flying first class. I'm not on a private plane. I'm not staying in the best hotels. So it was tiring on the body. So what I did was, I'll never forget it. I signed up for the earliest European Q school I could for first stage in Alcochete, Portugal, at Riba Golfe. That's the name of the golf course. Okay. I didn't know a lick of Portuguese.
Nope.
All right. But I had two buddies that wanted to go. One of my best buds from traveling was like, hey, let's go do this. I'd rather do this than web. He didn't have any financial support, but had enough money. He had just made $20,000 in an event earlier in the summer. He could afford to go to Europe Q school. He's like, there's more money in it down the road. Let's go to Europe.
Sure.
I go, sounds good. I sign up for both. We fly out there. Me and my buddy Eric Cole at the time, who is a great golfer, we both get through first stage. You can pick where you go in Europe for first stage. You can't pick for second, and obviously there's a final stage, but that's everybody's at finals. So we get through first, we fly home. I then have 2 days off, and I have first stage of Q school for web.com tour at Quail Valley up in Vero, which never played the golf course. Little bro had won the Florida State Junior there. I signed up for it on his word that it would be a great golf course for me. Hadn't had time to get up there. Go up there, don't even play a full practice round. I play 9 holes. I then have I asked the assistant golf pro if he could show me around, Nate Tyler. I owe him everything for this because I played the back 9 in my practice round. He drives me around the front 9, shows me this is where you want to be, this is where you don't want to be, all because of my little brother winning the state junior, the relationship that he had built.
Yep.
I go out the first day and I birdie the first 4 holes. And I shot 64 or 63, where I could just cruise through first stage of web. My pressure's gone. That week turned into actually like a laid-back week. I remember just relaxing. Buddies on the bag. Honestly, I was just very relaxed that week. I then have a couple weeks off. I fly back to Spain to go to second stage. And I got shipped to a different second stage than my buddy Eric got shipped to. So our expenses are through the roof.
Right.
And awesome town. Tarragona, Spain, I believe is the name of the town. I'm playing a course called Lumine or Lumine. I don't know how they pronounce it, but it was basically their version of PGA National.
Okay.
I felt at home. Like, everybody spoke English.
Boo Weekly's taking care of your shoes.
Oh, absolutely. Tequila shots at lunch, the whole 9 yards. Yeah.
Sure.
So what I ended up missing by 2 or 3 strokes at second stage. I whiffed a chip. Kind of one of those crazy weeks.
Whoa.
Wait, you want to talk about that, really?
You shanked a chip or you?
No. I whiffed.
Yeah, let's hear about that, Mr. 6364.
Did I tell you that it was lift clean in place, too, and it was in the fairway?
No, but go ahead. You whiffed a chip.
Yeah, so I kind of slowly had been developing some chipping issues.
Sounds like it.
When you're playing as much as I'm playing and not having the time to practice as much as you need to practice, when you develop an issue, it's an issue, especially when it's for your job and for your life.
Of course.
Things kind of happen. So I shoot 2 under on the front 9, don't miss a green. All right. 10th hole, I spin a wedge to a front flag off the front, this little kind of false edge. And I have the most straightforward chip shot any human being pro would ever dream of. I'm talking 35% make, probably.
Okay.
Little back of the stance, checkered little 55-degree wedge rolled into the hole. Give myself a great lie. It's bent. Okay. So if you miss it, you kind of miss it. Deal. You can flub it pretty easily on bent, you know. I hit so far behind this ball that I went over the ball after I chunked it.
So you stubbed it so short that the club bounced over the ball.
Over the ball,
and
yeah.
you missed the ball completely.
The funny part, though, is thank God it was lift, clean, in place, because if it wasn't, I wouldn't have been able to hit the next shot because the divot was
all
way.
over the yeah.
So what I did was I lift clean. I'm like a light bulb went off. Like, oh, I can lift, clean, and place this ball again because that's technically a shot.
It's important
I move
to
it
know
over
the
a
rules.
foot. I take a putter and hit it to a foot and tap it and make 5.
Okay.
But that was the start of
Oh God, yeah.
my downfall. I end up missing by 3 a hole, a wedge. The third round I shoot 65 to get back in it. I just shot 72 or 73 the last round. I missed by 3 shots.
What is now, just as a sidebar, like you're dropping these numbers on me, like 63, 64, 65. You're mentioning them as if they are just the most simple thing, and just like, hey, this is what I do. I shoot 7, I shoot 8, I shoot 6, whatever. Do you have a special mindset for how to do that? I mean, obviously you have the skill, you have the talent, but is there a different mindset that you have that the average amateur who maybe can't get past shooting 74, 75 has? I mean, because you hit it far, but a lot of people do. You make your putts, a lot of people do. It sounds like there might be some people have a better short game than you.
The last 5 years, yeah.
Yeah. So, but I'm just curious, like, is there a special mindset you have that you just teed up? You're like, all right, I'm just going to get to this number now.
Growing up, I was really family oriented. My dad played a big part in my golf. My brothers played a big part in my golf. And my dad was a fan of David Duval. Don't know why, don't know how, don't have a reason behind it. But I remember him saying that David Duval's dad used to say to David Duval, don't be afraid to go low. And my dad used to tell me that all the time as a kid. Don't be afraid to go low. Don't be afraid to go low. And for some odd reason,
that stuck.
It stuck with me. It was one of those things like, there's a few sayings my dad used to say, grind, grind, grind it out, grind it out, grind it out. And then when it would get hot, don't be afraid to go low. Like the year I won first stage, he caddied for me. He was like, who cares? Go low tomorrow.
You mentioned, we didn't hit on this when you were talking about the Honda, but you mentioned your dad caddied for you. You sounded like you were extremely green and raw at that event. I can't imagine that your dad was a whole lot better.
Oh, he was like the biggest rookie kid in a candy store.
Perfect.
That you can imagine.
So he
stole the bib at the end of the Friday round. It's hanging him in his office, I believe, right now.
Anything else embarrassing that your dad's done while in your bag?
Oh, I mean, we could have 17 episodes talking about that solely, but you know what? I would rather have my dad embarrass the hell out of me than have him never be around.
Well, I'm sure that there are plenty of more embarrassing stories that you can share about your father, and since I know him, I'm going to protect him, and we're going to move on. So let's kind of go abroad. I know you've played in Europe. Can you give me some stories about some odd places you've played golf, horror stories from hotels and getting lost and the rental car is not there and driving on the wrong side of the road? What can you share about playing golf in Europe?
You ever played golf in Riga, Latvia?
Sure haven't.
So in high school, I qualified to represent the U.S. in a junior event in Riga, Latvia.
Latvia?
Yeah, that's like a former Baltic state country. Awesome experience. I'd do it again in a heartbeat.
Okay.
Professional-wise, I've played in Ireland, Scotland, Portugal, Spain. Never been to Australia, never been to Asia. Never really wanted to go to South Africa. I've played,
You've been all over.
Yeah.
Okay.
A lot of awesome places that I'm so fortunate to have been able to go to.
Wow. So you've transitioned out of playing professionally. Sadly, yes. You're on hiatus.
Well, sometimes when I'm sitting doing something that I don't love with work, I love a lot of things that I do in my life and jobs. My previous jobs in the last 18 months, sometimes I'd sit there and go, why didn't I make more birdies?
Yeah. Well, I know you've moved on. You're not playing professionally, but you didn't exactly completely get away from the game. You spent some time caddying, so you have the unique experience of playing in the Honda Classic, and then you also caddied in the Honda Classic. So tell me about your caddy experience and who you caddied for.
Yeah. So when I decided I missed it Q in 2016, it's kind of like, you know what? You're 30. You've never made it to finals. It's like, I like nice things. I'd like to have nice things when I'm 40, 45, 50. It's kind of time to move on.
Sure.
I kind of wasn't getting better the last 3 years.
Right.
I hadn't Mondayed into an event in a few years. It was kind of like, yeah, you'll win some mini tour events, but I just wasn't doing what I needed to do to make the tour.
Gotcha.
I was trying my ass off. Don't get me wrong. I was doing the right things. I just wasn't progressing anymore.
Gotcha.
And it was kind of like I need to make a decision for me, my family, my future, kind of everything. I kind of had a heart-to-heart with myself. I went and got my insurance license, and I hadn't been in school in 8-9 years. Graduated with a couple degrees from college, so I finished school. I was great. I wasn't like that was a problem. It's just so I got my insurance license. I studied, got my 220 license in Florida, sold insurance for 4 or 5 months, and absolutely hated it.
Okay.
Like, just wasn't for me. The industry isn't for me. All right. And I was still kind of practicing because I still loved golf and still had this, like, maybe I'll come back to it. Maybe I just needed 6 months off. I remember I'm at the range one day, and Derek, like I said, Fat Thar was a buddy of mine. We grew up together. We're members at the same golf course, hitting balls one day, and he's home from a break. He had gotten his PGA Tour card again, been back out there off and on for the last 3 or 4 years. And it's good to catch up when we see each other. Like, we usually can go for a beer or whatever, but I happen to just see him at the golf course, unplanned. Hey, what's up, man? What you been up to? Man, I'm playing bad. I'm just not playing good, not hitting good. I look at his swing for half hour. I didn't need to practice mine. I'm not playing full time. I'm just taking an hour away from the office.
Sure.
Help him out a little bit. He goes out to Pebble and he was leading after 36 holes or something. Didn't close well, but he was like, man, what I did, I guess, helped him a little bit. He calls me the week after Riviera and goes, "Hey Gio," calls me Gio. "Hey Gio, you trying to qualify for Honda?" And funny enough, I had tried to qualify for Honda. Hadn't practiced, shot 70 in the pre-Q, missed by a shot. So I wasn't in the Monday. I go, "Well, funny, I missed by a shot." And he goes, "Oh, crap." I go, "What are you doing Monday? You want to come carry the bag?" I'm like, "Why the hell do you have to Monday? You're a fully exempt member of the PGA Tour." And he goes, "No, you dummy. I'm in the tournament. You want to come loop for me at the Honda?" And I kind of went, he wants me to caddy at the Honda? Like,
just don't steal the bib on Friday is really what he's asking you to do.
And I'm in my head going, am I mentally ready to go caddy when I want to be playing kind of thing? And I'm like, you know what? Derek's a great buddy of mine. I'd love to go help him out. Let's go. If I can make some money to take some pressure off my new career, absolutely, So I go caddy. We have a great Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. He's like, "Hey, I really enjoying what's going on here. This is cool, We missed the cut. He didn't have it. I was still helping him with a little bit of the stuff that's going on. And just didn't putt well. And Derek putts and chips like nobody I've ever seen in my life. He's unbelievable. If he could chip for me and putt for me, we'd be crazy good as a group.
There you go.
So then it's kind of like, I go, "Hey man, I can do this for a few weeks if you want me to." And he looks at me like, "Done, let's go." So I ended up caddying Honda, Valspar in Tampa, Bay Hill. I got to caddy in the Bay Hill Invitational of the year after Arnie passed away.
Wow.
That was actually a cooler experience than I could ever imagine, And then I did Houston for him, and then I did Harbortown.
Okay.
So I did 5 events. It was great. I learned a lot. I learned that I know I can still make it in my head, deep down inside.
Right.
I learned that I didn't want to sell insurance. This was like at the back half, that's the last thing I want to do. I want to do something that involves golf in some way or shape or form.
Sure.
I don't want to caddy. I tell you that much. That's just not what I want to do.
That's just too much of a vagabond, just kind of.
Well, it's just, I'm all about pressure and pressure situations. That's an uncontrollable pressure situation that I can't handle.
Right. Okay.
It's punch 7 iron. My punch isn't the same as your punch. And try and relay that to your close buddy,
right,
who plays different style.
So you were kind of. I mean, it was a fun little holiday, kind of a field trip kind of thing for you. But but you're too close to him to do that full time.
Oh God, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I'm a big believer in that. There's friends that can caddy and friends that don't. I mean, we left on great terms.
Right.
It's just his brother actually ended up leaving his job. Daryl's caddying for him, which is awesome.
Okay.
That's kind of Derek's dream anyway.
Yep.
which was cool. I got to taste a lot more of the PGA Tour than I did as a player. It was cool. Derek treated me like a brother. Actually, I got to experience a lot more of the PGA Tour than I probably should have.
Awesome. So we're gonna wrap things up, but before we get to the quick bucket, which is a short section we have at the back of every episode, we're asking a couple of quick questions. So you've transitioned. You're not playing professionally anymore. You've bounced from the insurance game. You have found something that you really enjoy doing. Tell me about your current role, your current position right now in this company you're working for.
So I work for a company called Celtic Golf. Remember how I said I wanted to always do something in golf?
Yes.
So what I do now is I build custom golf vacations to Ireland, Scotland, Italy, France, England, Wales, a lot of European destinations. And I handle everything from parties of one to parties of however many people you can think of that want to go on a trip. So I handle everything from your hotels, your rent-a-car, if you want to do a chauffeur drive, if you want to play the British Open venues, if you want to play Hidden Gems, if you want to play the local Muni, I can set it up for you.
And for someone that played on, in Europe, played professionally, you must just have no shortage of knowledge of courses that you want to play, and then also you're able to relate it in a way where, hey, I know what I'm talking about. I'm not just a travel agent.
Well,
I do this thing.
Just the other day, I had a gentleman call me about St. Andrews, and I was fortunate enough in my amateur career to play in the St. Andrews Links Trophy on the old course at St. Andrews, and I got to be able to describe to him in my exact opinion of what I felt of the old course, of how awesome it is, how much of a bucket list experience it is. I shared a few stories of my playing rounds of under the gun or the competitiveness of it, and I made a 30-footer on the last hole with the crowd around me, and it wasn't even a crowd. It was just the locals walking around having beers, stopped and watched golf that day. And I'm like, that happens almost every day in St. Andrews. So, it's an experience, not just a golf course. And I got to share me actually doing it to a client, which was pretty cool.
Yeah. No, you told me about this venture, and I think you're absolutely going to kill it. And we will. I want to have you on again later and tell me some stories about some other trips you've booked, and that's a whole nother episode. But before we get too far down that track, let's wrap this up. Let me ask you a couple of quick questions here at the quick bucket. So, Jack Nicklaus, 1986 Masters, or Tiger Woods, his fifth green jacket, which would be the more substantial victory?
Well, I grew up with the 86 Masters. My brother, Tom, Make-A-Wish Foundation, got to play golf with Jack Nicklaus when my brother had leukemia. So Jack's a huge memory of my family. So Jack Nicklaus. Mid-40s, winning the Masters. Are you kidding?
Okay. So you can give a major championship to anyone in history, alive or dead. They could have one major. They could have 18 majors, doesn't matter. You can give a major to anyone. Who'd you give it to? Can't give it to yourself. Can't give it to me.
I was going to say, other than myself?
You're not the only one that's trying to do that. So can't be done. Can't give it to you. Can't give it to me. Who'd you give a major championship to?
Little brother. Little brother's.
How is that behemoth of a younger brother of yours?
Awesome. Works his butt off. He's in the boat I was right out of school. No financial support to play. He's working. He's playing. He's working. He's playing. I'd give it to him in a heartbeat.
Yeah. Yeah, he hits it a long way. All right, lowest round of golf you ever shot?
60, left a 15-foot putt short right in the heart.
Okay,
on the last hole.
Worst round you ever shot as a professional?
I tend to forget about the bad rounds, but there's an 8 in front of it for sure.
Okay. Let's see. Give me the coolest experience you had on the road in a city that you just did not really expect to have that much fun. I mean, just something that really jumped out. There's like, wow.
All right. It's probably a town I don't think I ever want to go to again, but it was one of the coolest dinners I've ever had.
Okay.
I'm in Alcochete, Portugal.
Uh-huh.
I'm with 2 of my best buds, and for 3 nights we drove 45 minutes to go to McDonald's because we couldn't find food. Okay? We're there for European tour school, and we can't find food because we don't speak the language.
Sure.
One of my buddies is playing with a local in the European Tour Q school, and he goes, "What do you mean you can't find food? Alcochete is the best place for restaurants in Portugal." And we're like, "Can you show us?" We go. He takes us to dinner to what looked like somebody's house. They sit down and they serve us. They just go, "What do you like to eat?" And we're like, "Everything." They bring us 7 varieties of fish, beef, chicken, I mean, it was like we were kings in their house. But we weren't in their house. It was a restaurant. It was just small back road country in another country. We get the bill. We had a couple beers. It was like 17 euros a person.
Yeah, that's nothing.
And looking back on it, it was like these people basically welcomed me into their family, you know.
Wow. What's the place that, I mean, when did you really know that you were done? Was there a city or a stop that just really like, okay, I think I'm
Yeah. Nothing against Okefenokee Swamp, Georgia.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that, please?
Yeah, Okefenokee Swamp, Georgia. Yeah, there was a Swing Thought event. And it was one of those moments I'm like, this is not what I want in my life. It's time to do something I'm passionate about. I was passionate about golf, but I wasn't passionate about that aspect of golf.
Well, Greg, I really do appreciate the time. I think we left a lot on the table. I think we're going to have you back as a future guest for sure. For the meantime, though, thank you so much for joining us here at the Back of the Range, and all the best to you.
No, thank you for having me. It was a pleasure to sit and enjoy a bourbon with you and be your first live person.
And there you have it. Thanks so much to Greg O'Mahony from Jupiter, Florida. That was our first 2-part episode. Hope everyone enjoyed it. Shoot me an email and let me know your thoughts. ben@thebackoftherange.com. Don't forget, we are on Instagram, and you can follow us there at the Back of the Range Golf Podcast. Hope you all have a great week. We'll see you next time here at the Back of the Range.